Hey, how are you? I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Fantasy Six Pack and my boy Keith, Mr. Keith Fleming. How are you? Obviously in Georgia, repping the Falcons, repping the Georgia Bulldogs. And as you can see, my cohort, my co-host, Dave Eddy, is still not here. He's still not here, but I
Is
know
he
he
on a
is safe
bender?
and sound. Now he is safe and sound in New Orleans, and I did get confirmation after Sunday's broadcast, the Sunday morning broadcast that I did so graciously alone, an hour of my time. He is not engaged, but I don't know why you stay in New Orleans this long if you're not going to get engaged. So maybe he's playing the long con where instead of just proposing at the beginning of the trip, he's going to wait till like the last night that they have there in New Orleans and get down on his knee, because that's something he hasn't said. He just said we're not engaged yet. That was his term, yet. So Keith, we have a ton of stuff to get to, but we're going to kind of condense it down
Yeah.
for everybody. So Saturday morning, you can get in, you can get out, you can get what you need, and we can go from there. So Keith, I'm going to start it off like this. Hopefully, you've got some notes or something in front of
Oh
you.
yeah.
We're just gonna run it the kind of a lightning round esque kind of deal when it comes to the DFS here. And
Love
if
it.
you don't know, I am the GPP guy, obviously, and right, and Dave is the cash guy. I'm not too sure what side of the fence you lie on in
We're
terms
more
of
cash game
DFS.
specialists, and we really try to hammer the median and lower plays. We do two picks at each position on our show on Thursday on
Yeah,
Fantasy Six Pack, and we try to make them 6,500 and below.
that's beautiful. So then you should be more than ready to kick us off with some quarterbacks. I mean,
Oh
I have
yeah.
I have some juicy picks that are like way low. But I want to hear what you have to say first. So hit us with some quarterbacks.
So Kirk Cousins is my first one. The Chargers are just absolutely dreadful versus the pass. They have given up the most plays of 20 yards or more so far this season. The Vikings are sixth currently in plays of 20 yards or more. They have Justin Jefferson. Obviously, we know about Jordan Addison, who is just a freak. He's already got a 63-yard touchdown, a 31-yard touchdown. I actually like pairing Cousins with Addison and then running it back in that game with Allen and Williams. I talked about that in my stack article on fantasy6pack.net because Williams and Allen are much better against the zone. Vikings run as much zone as any team in the league. Cousins is also a much better quarterback at home. He averaged 21 points per game at home last year, only 15 on the road. Ironically, week one at home, he scored over 22 points. So I love Kirk Cousins this week.
Yeah, and he's the only guy I have highlighted in my notes. That's what I was showing you. I was like, just don't say Kirk Cousins, just don't say Kirk Cousins, and you went with Kirk Cousins. I
My
have,
bad,
you know
man.
what? I have an even better. I have an even better one, right? And it's going. I have two good ones, right? And I'm going to go back to Desmond Ritter. So this is week three, the
My
third time I've
boy.
talked about Desmond Ritter. And to be fair, he's gotten a little bit better each week. And I know when Dave and I got together before the season, even well, leading up to week one, I had this weird idea. If you're in Atlanta, Slappy, however you want to put it, the Atlanta offense that they made it seem like there's going to be like everything was fluid. Like of course you have a quarterback and a running back, but it's everybody is anybody on the offense, right? And Desmond Ritter has slowly gotten a little bit better each week. And last week, finally, he broke through a bit. Multi touchdowns. Obviously, Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson are going to be at his full disposal. But once we get over that hump, and when I say get over that hump, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the professional athletes. Once they, first few weeks into the season, they get their conditioning kind of dialed in because practice can only get you so far. And now week three and on is where it's going to start to get more realistic now in terms of you're huffing and puffing. We need oxygen, But what I'm getting at is Desmond Ritter is only going to get better because I love the kid in college. I loved where he went in the draft to your Falcons. And Atlanta comes here to Detroit. And right now, Detroit got really banged up early on in that embarrassing home opener against Seattle on defense. CJ Gardner Johnson, one of our, he was supposed to be that put everything together on defense. He tore his pec, so his breast muscle he tore. But in that kind of position, it's looking like a 4 to 6 week thing. More than likely, I'm guessing he'll be back in 5 weeks. But that does mean no good this week when we're talking about Ritter against the Detroit Lions, 27th overall against opposing quarterbacks. Ritter $7,000 on FanDuel, only $5,000 on DraftKings, $21 on Yahoo. I have Ritter just loads and loads of work, 17, 18 completions, 190, maybe 200 yards would be beautiful. 5-6 carries, 20 to 25 yards. Excuse me, that was my phone saying you better be, with the DFS team at this time. And a pair of touchdown passes. And given his price tag, only $7,000 on FanDuel. And when you look in comparison, like Patrick Mahomes is 9.2, so you can get. I'm not saying Ritter is anywhere near the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is, but in terms of salary relief, you can get that Desmond Ritter in a beautiful matchup for $1,200 less. One more guy I'll give you, and everybody hates on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, and why not? It's at this point, it's fun. I have no ill will against Dallas, but it is fun to pick on them every once in a while. But this week, Dallas goes to Arizona. Arizona is 29th overall against opposing quarterbacks. And I'm not saying Arizona is a cake matchup. I'm saying Arizona is kind of finding a way to hang in games and maybe, go down to the wire. And if I've ever seen anything from Dak, he can hang in those kind of games. More times than not, he makes a bad play at the end and Dallas loses, but he still can hang in those games and get us yardage. He can get us rushing yardage, passing yardage, whatever it may be. And he's 7-6 on FanDuel, 6-6 on DK, only $30 on Yahoo. I have Dak Prescott, 2021 completions, around 240 yards, a couple carries. I think they told Dak a while ago, just like Tua is doing now, quit with the running around, quit with doing all that nonsense. You're gonna turn your brain or your noggin into mush. So to me, it's Dak Prescott and Desmond Ritter. You like Kirk Cousins.
Can I give you one more name real quick? Because I really do like CJ Stroud this week. I know he's banged up, but he's throwing it 44.5 times per game. I think this is a get-right game for Jacksonville. Houston's defense has been awful this year, so Jacksonville's going to score, forcing, again, the Texans to throw. They can't run the ball because of all the offensive line injuries. But why I really like this matchup is Jacksonville's weakness is the pass rush. They're 29th in pressures right now this year. They were 25th last year. So C.J. Stroud's actually going to have more time this week than he has in the first 2 weeks, and he's been putting up good points. I really like Stroud, particularly on DK, because you could pair him with Dell and Collins if you want to for a very reasonable price.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And again, he is in my notes. He was in bottom of the barrel this week. That's out now. So is the running back article was just published not too long ago. And as we look at this, I had Austin Eckler in my article, not to be, obviously he's not playing, but just to set the standard where I give the highest priced player at that position to then put into perspective the guys underneath him. So as we move on, this is where it's going to get to a lightning round, because in this article, it was just published maybe an hour or two ago, when this broadcast is done, go out and read it now, read it Saturday morning while you're on the can, whatever. I mentioned 21 running backs. I mean, it took me all day, and the boss man was kind of pissed at me because I haven't been able to keep my schedule, and I don't know. And Keith, I don't know why, because I'm doing the same things as I was doing last year, but for some odd reason, time is going by quicker than I can ever remember it going by. But there are 21 running backs mentioned in bottom of the barrel this week, and I'm just going to do some quick hits. Miles Sanders, Carolina heads to Seattle. Seattle 26th overall against opposing running backs. Your boy Tyler Algier, I'll leave him if you want to, elaborate when we get down the road. Raheem Mostert playing Denver. Denver's 22nd. We saw Mostert looked absolutely awesome on Monday night. He broke off that long touchdown run, and as it stands right now, there's no one in that Miami backfield that's going to challenge him for anything until maybe Jeff Wilson comes back. But we're still looking at multi-weeks on end. That rookie Devin Achane, I don't believe he is at any risk of taking anything away from Mostert. Ramondre Stevenson, let's stop there briefly. The Patriots go to the Giants. Jets, excuse me. The Jets are 18th overall against opposing running backs, and this New England and Jets rivalry, the AFC East has been just dominated by New England for how many years, and times are a changing. And I don't need a pen. I don't need paper. All I need are my two eyeballs to watch Ramondre Stevenson run to know that this kid's a stud and he's a star. And he is. I said it in a chat. What chat? I don't know. Was it the F6 pack chat? But he is like a graceful wrecking ball. I mean, he welcomes contact, and he actually runs harder and better after that first contact. So to me, Ramondre Stevenson, only 6'5" on FanDuel, 6'7" on DK, to me is a no-brainer. One guy that I mentioned here, but it could go either way, and that's Zach Moss. The Colts go to Baltimore. And Zach Moss was beautiful. He had 20 plus points across all formats last week, and that was based on volume. Will that volume hold up against a tough Baltimore, defense? I don't know. We shall see. I'm willing to give Joshua Kelly another chance. The Chargers, they have nowhere else to
much
turn.
Better matchup.
Much better matchup too. Yeah, Josh Kelly's playing in Minnesota. Minnesota's 21st against them. Let's see what shakes out with Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City, because Kansas City's going to absolutely steamroll Chicago. So hopefully we get some run from him. Dalvin Cook, the other New York Jet running back, that could be good. Craig Reynolds in Detroit, Jerome Ford, Latavius Murray. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville, Taj Sharp, the rookie Roshan Johnson in Chicago. And why not throw out Tony Jones Jr., New Orleans Saints running back, is playing in Green Bay. He had something to say when he put up, a yardage, and he scored twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
and
he did.
4,500. He has $4,500 on both sites and $19 on Yahoo. It's just too easy, too good to be true. And one more guy I'll mention, and that's this young kid Rico Dowdle in Dallas. Let's say for some odd reason Arizona just folds up and it's just kind of like a garbage time game thing, and they're like, you know what, let's get Rico going, or even Turpin. That's a wide receiver, but to me Rico would be a guy we would put in like a Millie Maker kind of thing, or if you're going to max enter a GPP. So sorry I talked for so long about those running backs.
You don't ever apologize for talking about running backs. I love your stuff, man.
I named a few of them. So what do you have at running back?
So I got two other guys that I really like. I love Pacheco, the Pacheco play, but Breece Hall is the guy I really like. I think if you look at last week, it was all about the Jets made a decision that they had a guy returning from a serious injury. They were getting blown out. They didn't give him any carries. He is still averaging over 8 yards per touch over his last 6 games. 5 of those were started by Zach Wilson, so you don't have to worry about that. And in every game in his NFL career that he has gotten 10 touches, he scored at least 15 points. The weather is going to be awful in the Northeast. You're going to be looking at running backs, and those Northeast games are talking about 30, 45 mile an hour winds and heavy rain. So we're talking about the Jets-Pats game, the Commanders versus the Bills, and the Ravens versus the Colts. And then another cheap guy, I do like the other back for New Orleans. I like Kendra Miller too. Their 3rd round pick. He's going to play this week. Obviously he's got to worry about sharing snaps with, the other 2 guys that they've got there. But when it's a 3rd round draft pick, they've been talking about him. It's just a flyer. He's 4,300 on DK. I think he might actually do most of the pass catching in this game, which obviously in DK, point per. It's just kind of one of those guys, again, in one of those bigger contests, take a shot. If you bust a big one for a touchdown, you're golden at 4,300. But I do love the Pacheco. The Chiefs are scoring 19.9 points per game. They've been scoring 29. Pacheco saw 14 red zone carries over his last 5 games last year. The issue is the Chiefs haven't been in the red zone. So Pacheco has really not been that bad. The other Chiefs backs had -2 yards. He is their feature back. They just got to start moving the ball, which they will against this dreadful Chicago D. I really like that Pacheco play a lot.
Yeah, it's a beautiful play, and it's a beautiful call. And again, he's got that red Q next to his name, and he'll have some time to kind of get it together. And he's a young kid, and he'll be okay. When we look at the wide receiver position in the last few, to be fair, every single game slate video that I've done so far for Fantasy Six Pack, that's where all the action has been, because I do firmly believe in my heart of hearts that's the way the league has transitioned. Running backs are, most teams, if you don't have two of them, what do you do? And the days of a Derrick Henry they're dying out if they're not already
It's
gone.
dinosaurs, man.
And that bums me out because we both grew up in that era. Barry
Yep.
Sanders, Thurman Thomas, those guys. That doesn't happen anymore. You want that 1-2 punch, that thunder and lightning kind of thing, which is all well and good. I have nothing against it. It makes the game more exciting, but it also, tends to lend itself to where wide receivers are all the buzz and where it's at and where it should be. And when you look at what we have in front of us for week 3, the most expensive wide receiver is without a doubt Justin Jefferson. They're playing
For
the
good reason.
Chargers, who are the Chargers right now. Unless I'm wrong, are there how many? There's only 32 teams in the NFL, Keith, right? Unless I'm
They're dead
wrong there.
last. Yep.
Yeah, because the Chargers are 32nd overall against opposing wide receivers. You talked about Kirk at the beginning of the broadcast briefly. Justin Jefferson is 9-7 on FanDuel. But as we scroll down, I'm going to double down. I'm going to keep going back to these guys that repay me, right? I write them down. I from my brain to my hand, to my hand, to my pen, to my pen, to my paper, to my paper, to my mouth, to my mouth, to my radio, to you. I talk about these guys and they make me look good. So I'm going to keep going back to these guys. And that first one is Nico Collins. Houston plays in Jacksonville this weekend. Jacksonville 16th overall against opposing wide receivers. He's $6,900 on FanDuel. So you can tell he's kind of going up. In week 1, he was like 58, 56. And you look what a couple 100-yard games, a couple touchdowns will do. So Nico Collins, to me, seems to be breaking out this year. And we need to either get with it or get lost. And I'm getting in with it. Right below him is Jordan Addison. I'll leave him for you because I know I can read, when I'm here with Dave, it's like we know what we're going to say. So we kind of
Right.
hold off so the other guy can get his limelight because I don't want to take nothing away. I want to mention Zay Flowers as well. Last week was I didn't even know Dave was going to do it. He had this weird, there was like this weird cryptic tweet to most people. But it was like, if you know, a Tuesday day. And the one included Zay Flowers, the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver. Zay Flowers going against the Colts, who are 31st overall against opposing wide receivers. Zay Flowers only $6,300 on FanDuel, and he looks to have become a favorite of Lamar Jackson, right? And again, Lamar Jackson signs this big contract, and in a way, he doesn't have to jump through hoops and do somersaults on the field anymore. He can be safe in the pocket. He can throw it away if it's not there. The day, I'm not going to say the days of Lamar Jackson putting up 100-yard rushing games are over. They're not. But I'm telling you, the coaching staff, and even in his own head, he said, well, why would I want to run if I really don't have to if something, God forbid, something happens. So look for Zay Flowers to be, heavily involved. I'm also willing to give Elijah Moore another shot at this. We know Amari Cooper is or was banged up, but he did play last week and he played well. And so Elijah Moore, we've been promised this unbelievable talent, right? AJ Brown said it himself on draft day. They were hugging in some back room of an apartment complex, and I know you're better than me. And if AJ Brown said that Elijah Moore is better than him, yet Elijah Moore has done nothing across the board so far. But again, Dallas, Elijah Moore, Cleveland's playing Tennessee 30th against opposing wide receivers, only $6,100. I'm willing to give him another shot. And last but not least, this Rashid Shaheed kid from New Orleans last year, he made me a ton of dough. He made anybody who watched my videos and trusted me in my opinion, he made a lot of people a ton of dough because I was always putting him in captain MVP spots on single game slates. And every time we did that, it was one of those 75-yard touchdown plays, right? He caught 2 passes for 120 yards, and one of them was for a touchdown. So until until I see something different, I'm going to keep running with Rashid, because again, it was New Orleans words. These aren't mine, that they want to get away from using him as that gadgety guy. They're going to actually line him up, which they have been doing, and getting him involved. And he is quick and he can catch. And one more, I'm sorry, I keep saying one more. DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, stack him up with Elijah Moore. Cleveland at playing Tennessee. Tennessee is bad news. They look just demoralized, bummed out, and I think Cleveland's going to just run over them in any which way. And even Jerome Ford could be in play, who is in bottom of the barrel. But I've seen weirder stuff happen here, Keith.
For sure. I love the Browns receivers. Tennessee, you talk about how bad they are this year. Me and Joe Matz hammered them last year. They gave up more than 500 passing yards, more than 30 of 32 NFL teams last year. 30 of 32 NFL teams, they had at least 500 more passing yards. So they are bad again. They've given up 300 yards both games. I love that Elijah Moore play. Again, the Chargers thing, and again, Joe the Brain Matz, my co-host on Thursdays, gave an incredible stat that Mike Williams against man is averaging basically 1.15 yards per route. Okay. Against a zone, which again, the Vikings run 92%, the most in the league, he's averaging almost 2.25. So he's literally averaging twice the yardage per route versus zone that he does man. I actually kind of am leaning to Williams over Allen. Allen is also actually better in his splits versus the zone as well. But I love both of those receivers. The Addison play, absolutely, I am just all over this kid. And again, it's not just the fact that he's been really impressive. It's the fact that the Chargers can't stop anybody. I mean, you look what Tyreek Hill did week 1. That happens. You get it. 2 of 400 yards, Tyreek. When Ryan Tannehill's throwing for 250 yards and forcing the ball down the field, your secondary's got real issues. So I think that's a great, because it's so expensive to put Jefferson in there. I'm not going to, judge anybody that wants to include Jefferson in their lineup. You should if you have the money, but I think with Addison, you're not losing that much, because you would have to think the Chargers are going to do everything they can to stop Jefferson. That's really good for Addison and Hawkinson owners. And the Vikings haven't been able to run the ball, which has been, the real big issue why these receivers have been doing so well. On the Detroit side, I like Reynolds. With St. Brown being banged up, Atlanta, the numbers are funky. As an Atlanta Falcons fan, I can tell you right now they've given up the 3rd least passing yards in the league. That's because they played Jordan Love and Bryce Young. It is not because my Falcons can stop the pass. And you're going to see that. Goff is another one of those QBs. He's very good indoors. We have typically struggled the last couple of years with really fast, athletic receivers, which Reynolds is that. St. Brown is a great receiver, but he is not a speedster. Reynolds is their burner. I expect him to have at least one big play. And then Tank Dell, I know you mentioned Nico Collins. I like Tank Dell a lot as well. He saw 9 targets last week, went over 100 yards. And again, the big thing about Jacksonville, they can't pressure the QB. That's really, it's phenomenal Stroud's doing what he's doing, because they literally are playing with a complete mesh unit in their offensive line. So that should not be as much of an issue this week versus Jacksonville. Plus, I think Jacksonville is going to score. So, I'm with you, though, that I think both in fantasy drafts and in DFS, the first thing I always do is try to figure out what receivers I want to want, because you can always find running backs. You can always figure out a running back in a price range and put him in there and feel pretty good about it. If there's a receiver you really like, particularly with a matchup, I feel like that's where I start my lineups, is with a QB and 1 or 2 receivers. The one other guy that I didn't mention, I'm sorry, at the running back is Bijan Robinson. The Lions linebackers are not great in coverage. Obviously, we've seen what Bijan can do in the passing game. I think that he's going to have at least 5-6 catches this week. I understand on FanDuel if you don't want to use him, because we still don't know like the red zone and how many carries he's going to get. But on DK, I just think he's an automatic start. I think he's undervalued. If you look at what he scored both weeks, he's second only behind CMC in all-purpose yards at the running back position. I'm really surprised they haven't moved him up that much. And you mentioned Collins. Collins has only gone up $400 with all the catches that he's had. And then one final thing, I love the Flowers play. Obviously, pay attention to the weather, because if it's really bad, you probably need a pivot. But the Colts this season have already given up 2 wide receivers over 35 receptions, over 500 yards, and 4 touchdowns. There's been 2 games. So anytime you can pick receivers against the Colts, you need to be doing that.
And that's one of those stats that don't show up in box scores. Well, maybe they do, but you need someone like Keith to kind of dig through it for you to understand. So, and I wrote it down in pencil on my mechanical pencil. Nico Collins, and then anybody that's playing against the Colts. Let's get into some tight ends briefly, and then we'll do a DST or two just to tie it up into a bow, so Dave doesn't have a coronary, because I know how much he loves his DSTs, and that's the last thing we want is Dave to have a heart attack on the day he's supposed to
Yeah, he
propose.
needs to get engaged first. Yeah.
Yeah. Let that happen, and then I
Then
don't
he
know.
can have a heart attack.
That'd be a weird thing. I mean, let's say I propose to a girl. We'll call it just give me a woman's name. Say any woman name you can think of.
Do you want a Kardashian? How about Kim?
Oh, let's say I propose to a girl named Kim. She says yes,
Okay.
puts on the ring. We both stand up, we hug and kiss, and we're engaged. And then I fall over with a heart attack. And then what? Does she have an obligation then because we're engaged, or can she just go, well, I don't know, and toss? I don't know how that would happen, because I know, like, if I were to have a heart attack and die, God forbid, we're not married yet, so she wouldn't have any interest in my money or
If you
anything.
died,
But
she's
so
probably going to keep the ring, I'm assuming.
yeah, but that's about it. So Dave, we wish you the best. Please put on the ring first before you have some weird cheeseburger with grease and onion rings and all that, and your arteries are just like squeezing
Or
out.
before we
When we
spend
look
1
at
minute on defenses, so.
yeah, or make me late for a dinner. I was supposed to be at 13 minutes ago. But anyways, when we look at the tight ends here, the one that jumps off the page, the most expensive, and it's going to be like this week to week. It's Travis Kelce, KC playing Chicago. He's $8,000, and again, I only say that kind of stuff to put into perspective, the guys I like and where they're priced in comparison to the top end guys. And right now, it's always been Kelce, T.J. Hockenson, Mark Andrews, and I'm happy that Evan Ingram has been able to finally tap into the potential that we know he always had. But as we dig, and we go down, I'm going to once again stay with David Njoku. Cleveland's playing Tennessee. Again, Tennessee is completely
Terrible
bummed out,
secondary. Yep.
demoralized. $5,400 on FanDuel. I've mentioned Njoku every week so far, and he's repaid me every time. So again, as I said 10-15 minutes ago, I'm going to keep going back to that well until it dries up, or until someone tells me to stop. I'm going to go back to it. Look at Dawson Knox, right? This young kid, Dalton Kincaid, was all the buzz. We're going to draft him. Even on the depth chart, he was above Dawson Knox. Who scored the touchdown last time out? It was Dawson Knox, and he's playing at Washington. Washington is 18th. He's $5,300 on FanDuel. Now, when you look at Washington, their defensive line is, one to be admired.
It's a force.
It's a force, and the way they built that, I've long been admired. I've long admired how they built that defensive line, and I thought maybe the Lions were onto something but that's a topic for another day. But Dawson Knox is still big enough and athletic enough to get away from a linebacker in the red zone or in the end zone, somewhere along those lines. So look for Dawson Knox to catch a touchdown pass. The rookie Sam Laporta here in Detroit against Atlanta.
Love him.
Atlanta's 22nd overall against opposing tight ends, only $5,200 on FanDuel. His target share has been insane for a tight end. And when you look back, after the game, or when you rewind back, a play during the game, he's doing things that rookies don't primarily do at that tight end spot. And I'm not talking about route running or catching passes. I'm talking about defense, just blocking on run calls. He's
3-down tight end.
He's making cuts and to get where he needs to be next to the tackle to make sure that Gibbs can make it through. Like, he's making plays that a rookie tight end shouldn't be doing from a team perspective, helping the team in that sense, if that makes any sense here. And as we go down,
Sure.
it's just a nothing of nothing, really. Luke Musgrave
Throw stuff at the wall is what we call it. Just throw it. It's tight ends. Just throw
Luke
stuff against the
Musgrave
wall.
is on the wall. Durham Smythe I like as well. Miami's
I do
playing
too.
Denver. I know I liked him on the Monday Night Football video. He caught a couple passes, didn't find the end zone, but Denver 24th against tight ends. He's only $4,800 on FanDuel, excuse me. And then one last one, Mike Gesicki. New England is at the Jets. I still think that Bill Belichick thinks that he still owns, the division, and
He does.
we've always bent over and spanked the Jets. So what does that mean? He's going to line up Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki in 2 tight end sets in the red zone, and you know what I mean. The Jets are going to see it coming a mile away. But that's the great thing about football is that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and I want you
Try
to
to
do
stop it.
everything in your
Yeah.
power to try and stop me here. So to me, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki are both in play. And what's the harm in using both of them in the same entry? You can use Hunter Henry in your tight end spot and then Durham in the flex spot. I know that flex spot on FanDuel, people like to use it for, a wide receiver or a running back, but why can't it be just all like an all tight end kind of build? So that's what I have for tight ends. What are you thinking here?
So first, I just want to start with your boy Laporta. I've been so impressed. He is an absolute stud. My Falcons have given up 7 passing touchdowns to tight ends in their last 7 games. They ended a streak actually last week where they had 6 straight. They didn't catch one. They've still given up 7 their last 7 going back to last season. Last week, he was number 1 in tight ends for first downs, and he was second among tight ends in missed tackles. This dude is a stud, and really he's underpriced. And remember, St. Brown's banged up. I think that the Lions are going to need a throw. Montgomery's going to be out. I think Laporta is going to have a huge game. I have him in a lot of lineups. I think he's a great play in the flex, to your point. Travis Kelce on DK, particularly 7,200. How disrespectful. How dare they? How dare they have Travis Kelce for $7,200? Sign me up. The Bears are awful. Week 1, Luke Musgrave, a rookie, 3 catches on 4 targets, 50 yards. Last week, Cade Otton, 6 targets, 6 catches, 41 yards versus defense. And no offense, I know people are going to say, well, Travis Kelce's banged up. Travis Kelce could cut off one leg, and he's still better than both of those tight ends. The Chiefs offense is going to get right this week, and Kelce's going to be $8,000 on DK. Maybe next week. I promise you, in 2 weeks, he definitely will be back up to that rate. So you're getting him at a value, and I always look for that. When a player is underpriced for what we know they are, he's Travis freaking Kelce. He saw 9 targets last week. He still scored 12 points in a sloppy game. I think that he's a real value on DK. FanDuel, I'm not going to lie, I don't do as much FanDuel because I'm really into the PPR. So I can't really speak for if that's as good of a value for it, but on DK, it absolutely is. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Chris, but Kyle Pitts is somebody that I actually think that people should have in some lineups. He's going to be low owned. If he's ever going to go off, it's going to be against the Lions. So far this season, they're giving up an average of 7 receptions and 85 yards to tight ends. So if it's going to happen, it's going to be this week. I don't feel great about it because Arthur Smith, who knows if he's going to freaking throw it to him. And then just some cheaper plays. I like Troutman for Denver. He really let me down last week, but he's got a great matchup this week. I think that they're 29th against tight ends, and he's really the guy. Dolce or Deluxe. I'm sorry, I'm a country boy. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's done on IR. Dulcich, thank you. And so he is the tight end. And I think that there's a good chance he could catch some points, get some yardage. And then outside of that, again, it's just throw stuff at the wall with tight ends. I really believe in either spending on a guy like Kelce, Andrews, or just saying I'm taking a guy 3,500 or under. But Laporta is the one guy that I am circling outside of that low range that I think he's a great play. Again, the Falcons have they don't have really anybody to cover somebody his size and speed, and they just consistently give up touchdowns in the red zone. We have not got pressure this year either, which is a big issue. So I don't think he's going to have to stay in and block. Right now, we're 18th in pressure rate, so he's going to be able to release on passing plays. I love Laporte. That's probably my favorite tight end play other than Kelce on DK at 7,200.
Laporte, you made him sound French. Sam Laporte. I like that. Sounds like a bottle of wine too.
I'm country as hell, man. They know I can't ever get anybody's name.
It's all good. Sam Laporte, Sam Laporta, Sam Laporte. It doesn't matter to me. When we look at DSTs, this is my rule. It sounds like we're going to be on the same page here. I scroll all the way to the bottom and I look at like the the worst of the worst and see what we can get. And there's two teams that I absolutely that are going to be. These are the only two teams I'm going to use in entries, just back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be the Washington Commanders playing
Smart
Buffalo,
man.
and it's going to be the New York Jets playing the New England Patriots. And I'll tell you why I like Washington. You know, well, Washington against Buffalo. Well, let's rewind this back a little bit. The Buffalo isn't the Buffalo that we saw in last year's playoffs or the playoffs before that and the AFC championship game and stuff. You know, they've started off very slow and they don't look right. And, you know, and Josh has made some mistakes, and him and Stephon Diggs, they say they hugged it out and they used to be best friends and they played video games together. And now there's like a weird vibe there. That's like there's some uncomfortable stuff going on in there, right? And it's week 3, and Washington is coming in like a tank. Again, that defensive line is no joke, and their secondary and their safeties as well are no jokes as well. So again, people, I maybe one of these days I'll stop saying this, but people are gonna say Washington versus Buffalo. Well, I have Buffalo to win this game, 31-28, and that's a lot. I don't care who wins and who loses. I don't care about what
Right.
points are scored. I'm looking at sacks and interceptions and fumble recoveries and passes deflected, and that's what Washington does. They're going to just push back that offensive line. Josh Allen is going to get sacked in this game several times. Josh Allen is going to throw an interception in this game. Someone will undoubtedly fumble the football, and hopefully Washington falls on that sucker. As we look at the Jets here, as I said, I think it's going to be New England's arrogance that kind of gets them in trouble in this game, thinking, oh, it's just the Jets. It's no big deal. Robert Salaha, he's local where I am, right down the road. He's kind of like, is he in over his head, coaching this team, and Aaron Rodgers has got like all these weird narratives, right? And when you break down the Jets to their simplest form, their defense is good and their secondary is even better. And anytime you have Sauce Gardner as kind of the general of your defense, you're going to be okay. And how can someone sit here and tell me? I know this isn't what's, I don't even know what those shows are called. They're so awful. Where Skip Bayless fights Stephen A. Smith and all that. I don't. But this
First
isn't the
take
kind of.
or
Yeah,
yeah.
this isn't the show. But what I was going to say is to anybody out there watching, do you trust Mac Jones to steadily keep making right decisions in this game and putting the football where it needs to be? Because if he is off by just a couple inches, I'm not even talking about a foot or two. If he throws the ball behind a guy, the Jets are going to get after it. That's how good they are in their secondary. And for that reason, I think, to me, the New York Jets are my number 1 overall DST play this week. And there could be a case, I'm going to say this, I'm just going to say this, and if it happens, we'll have to edit it and we'll run it back, and I'll be a genius. And if it doesn't happen, we'll just delete
Or
it.
just forget about it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think that the New York Jets cause so much havoc to Mac Jones that we see Bailey Zappi in this game somewhere down the. Maybe I'm not saying like it's a full-on quarterback switch in the middle of the game. I'm saying that Mac Jones makes a few mistakes and it pisses Bill Belichick off, and they put in Bailey, for a play. Or if it gets out of hand, if they're down 20 points or something, he puts in Bailey to see what he's got. Because personally, when we watched Bailey play last year, he looked pretty damn good. And it's just a shame that the way they treat these kids, that they're anointed, right? You were our first round pick, Mac Jones. You were our first round pick, and you're the heir apparent to Tom Brady. And Bailey Zappi was this nobody they drafted, and come to find out, Bailey might be a little bit better than Mac Jones. But the NFL and all these old white dudes are so stuck in their ways, they're not looking to look past that. So if Zappi gets in this game at all, I think that would be what's best for this New England Patriots franchise if and when the Jets totally just wreak havoc on Mac Jones. Could be one of those games where, remember, it kind of ruined Sam Darnold's career, to be honest, when he said, I'm seeing ghosts. And it's like, now Sam Darnold is himself a ghost. I don't even know where he is
Maybe
or what
Mac
he's doing.
Jones does the butt fumble, right? And we finally come full circle from the Jets Pats deal, right? Like the Jets get their
Something
their
like
get
that.
back.
Yeah, and again, Mac Jones is a great kid, great dude. I met him one time. It's not like we
Oh, cool.
it's not like we text each other and we talk on the phone. I don't wish
That's
the
not who
kid
you're
any
going to
ill
dinner with,
will.
right?
No, I don't wish the kid any ill will, but if he's not crisp in this game, he is going to be absolutely just made to look foolish, and I don't want to see that happen. But if it does, Bailey Zappi is going to be the guy they call up and to get some plays, and he was in bottom of the barrel this week. Bailey Zappi, by the way, just in case.
I love it. I actually think Bailey Zappi is the better quarterback for that team. If you look at the offense last year, I thought they were better with Zappi. And why doesn't he get a chance with an actual offensive coordinator this year? I know Matt looked okay week one, but I think that's more Philadelphia's defense is not quite what we thought it was. I'm all over you with though with the Jets. I love that play. Again, there's a very good chance. We're talking like torrential downpour and 30 to 40-mile-an-hour winds. So if that ends up being the case, those three games in the Northeast, I'm looking at the Colts, I'm looking at the Jets, and I'm looking at the Commanders. I'm 100% with you because those games are just going to become into rock fights. And let's be honest. I mean, do the Ravens, without J.K. Dobbins, without Justice Hill, are they going to be able to win that game running? Do you really want to put Lamar in danger this early in the season by having him run it 10, 15 times in that kind of game? I know I wouldn't. And for the Jets, I really think Brees Hall is going to feast because I mean Raheem Mostert just smoked this New England run defense last week, and I'm telling you, Brees Hall is a bad man. All again, every game that he's had at least 10 touches, he scored 15 points in fantasy. If the Jets get the lead, that is bad news for New England. We know the Jets have the ability to pass rush, and to your point, Sauce Gardner is just a bad man. And again, with Washington, what I love about that, Josh Allen is a turnover machine. Unfortunately, since that injury last year, he's nearly averaging 1.5 turnovers per game over like his last 12 games. He's not the Josh Allen that he was when everybody, said he was the MVP and was. I don't know what happened. It's like the offense has completely changed. But I love those plays, and I'm 100% with you. Every once in a while, there is a matchup that is so juicy at like that 4K range that I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Like a prime example would have been Dallas week one, but I didn't have the balls to pull it. But I'm with you. I just feel like it's just like in drafts. You don't draft a defense in your fantasy league in the 8th, 9th round. That's stupid, right? Why would you spend money in DFS on a defense when there's not that much difference typically from the top defense and the bottom? And it's so random. It's turnovers, it's touchdowns. We can't predict that. That's just random lucky stuff. So 100% on you. Literally, you gave the two defenses that I'm on. And then, like I said, because of the weather, I'm starting to get on the Colts because they can't stop the pass, but they're actually pretty good against the run. And that would make that, Ravens matchup a lot different.
Yes, and I agree. And that is the end of what we have for you here on the DFS Den on this Saturday morning. So thanks for joining me on such short notice, Keith. I
Anytime, Chris,
appreciate
man.
that. I owe you one, and Mr. LaPlante back there. I know he's muted. You can't see him. He's running the turntables, the ones and twos. I thank him for that.
He's the
Keith,
Wizard of
tell us how.
Oz.
Yeah, tell us anything you got going up here at the site that you want people to know about.
Yes, sir. First of all, I would appreciate if you guys would follow me on Twitter. I just hit 1,500 followers. I'm trying to grow a bigger Twitter presence. It's at Keith Fleming. That's KeithFleming. On fantasy6pack.net, I put out 2 articles every week on Tuesdays. I put up a DFS values where basically I give 2 plays. They're going to be under 5K at every position. And then on Thursday or Friday, it depends on when it comes out, I do a DFS stacks where I give you 3 stacks. Usually it's 1 quarterback, 1 receiver. We'll have 1 quarterback, 2 receivers, and then I try to do like 4 players from 1 game. On Wednesdays, you can catch me on ESPN Northwest Florida Radio, where I go on and just talk DFS with Ryan Mulvey, who's the guy I've known for a long time. He's the host of the Inside Drive. And then on Thursdays, me and Joe Matz do our live DFS show. It's the F6P DFS show that comes on right before the Thursday night games. We were blessed and very excited. Chris came on this week 1. I know he's going to come on some more times before the end of the year, help us with Showdown, which is something me and Joe do not know how to do to the level that Chris does. I'm really excited learning that kind of stuff. Alan, who's doing great work with the NFL bets content, he comes on at the end of gives a pick for the game. And I tell people, I call Joe the Brain Mats for a reason. Last week he had Reed. Again, we give 2 plays. That's it at each position. And one of his flexes was Reed for Green Bay. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, who the hell is Reed? He went out and scored 20 points. That's why he's Joe the Brain Mats. We've really tried to, give you those value plays that are really what separates, not just in, cash. I mean, the big tournaments, also in cash games, because if you can get a couple of cheap plays to go off, then you can have Bijan. You can put Jefferson and Cousins in your lineup. But I honestly, I said this before, Chris. I'm happy to say it on the air. The whole reason me and Joe came over here was you came over here. We just really admire your work ethic. You're great at this stuff, and we're here to learn from you, and we appreciate you allowing us to come along with you.
Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, your boy got the Jaden Reed play for me because it was the bottom of the barrel, the Green Bay Packers guy.
I'll call his ass out for that, Chris.
And I drafted him across the board in seasonal formats, in redraft leagues and all that stuff. He's a Michigan Stater. I got to see him play a lot. In the area in college, and people say, oh, well, I like him, but he's a tiny little slot guy. That's what slot guys are supposed to be, dummies. Tiny guys that are quick, that can cut and get lower than you to get the football.
Look at Wes Welker. Was he a big dude?
And boom, yes, no, and boom, they are gone. My name is Chris Robin. You can find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. Bottom of the barrels are out just about every day. You're going to get a single slate game video out of me every time there is one. Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Thursday night we're going to switch things up and maybe start doing TikToks and graphics, just getting you anything you need DFS wise that I can provide to the site and to everybody that is involved in this thing. I will do it. I would walk up and down Fifth Avenue in New York with wearing a billboard that says start with what like Bruce Willis did in the beginning of Die Hard, one of the Die Hards, but it was the N word and it was a bad start.
Yeah, that looks so good, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna split. I thank everybody for being here. Enjoy your weekend, and we will be back very soon. See ya. Bye-bye.